there's people out there who want light, and I need to get this lamp to them. So how do I, and this is why I'm in Davos, how do I get the lamp to the people who need it? And the one thing is, I need to pay somebody a profit to make that happen, right? So we're working with a for-profit model. So it's not something that is like aid or being given away, even though we would do work with NGOs as well. But the idea here is that do a profit chain so that the people who brings the light out, they make money, so much money that it becomes a desirable business, and they build a business with it.
So is Africa your target market?
As a great part of the 1.3 billion people in the world who don't have access to electricity are in Africa, some in India, that means that Africa is the place where I need to make a marketplace.
Now you launched this in Addis. What was the reception like there?
Well, we started designing it really 2 years ago, and we used Ethiopia as a nice testing ground. So we went around asking people what they thought, how they did, and then we changed the design, we modified it over the course of a year. We also worked on the language to how do one talk about it, so it's about resources and having power, and how what do we have in common, instead of saying, oh, this is somebody in the West resourceful and then something which is resourceless, right? Well, how can we make a language which is all about the resourcefulness? What do we share? We want to be happy, we want to have quality in life, we want to have possibilities. So this is how this design actually came up, as something which is positive, has an aspiration, something which is very emotional. Light, of course, in a sense is functional. We need light to read, and it's about that on one sense. But it has to be a little bit more than functionality. It has to be spirituality as well. And Ethiopia was a great place to say to people, well, listen, obviously light is one thing, but it's also about art, creativity, or spirituality. And then the people said, wow, oh, I really like it then. And that suddenly we realized that, of course, it's the same thing as when we're selling it in Milan or in London at the Tate Modern. It's the same thing, it's a design object, and we will sell it for a very low price. And our benchmark is to compete with the kerosene or the biomass prices, which means we wholesale it for just about $5. The retailer, he should try or she should try to sell it for around $10, which leaves a quite substantial profit to maybe a wholesaler, one or two retailers. The idea is that the retailer at the end, the one closest to the end user, is the one who profits the most, also the one who sells the least lamps, so the wholesaler has the most. But the whole idea is, so it's a profit model where the people who are going to maybe be walking up the mountains for a day to sell 3 lamps, they get a ton of money for that. And this is really the idea that it's about light, but it's also about a sustainable model of how to build local businesses.
Have you actually tested it in a rural community? What and how? If you have, what have been the results?
Oh, we've tested it in many places, and we are currently selling it in 6 African countries: Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, and Kenya being the most successful ones for us. The thing about testing is so interesting, because we always think that we know what people are going to be using it for, right? But we are obviously so wrong, because I was with a man just before Christmas, and he was a little more than 60 years old, and he said to me, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to milk my cow. I said, oh great, you can use the light to milk your cow. And he said, no, I've been milking my cow for 40 years in darkness now. I don't need a light for that. And then he leaned over and he said, you know what? When I get up in the morning now, because I'm 60, I have to go to the toilet. And in the darkness, I'm so afraid of falling and breaking a hip, because then my family falls apart. This is when I need it. So suddenly I realized, oh, this is much more interesting as a work of art that also then works in life. And this is how it somehow started. And as you can tell when I talk about it, I'm not a traditional businessman, and I don't aim to be. But clearly, I'm convinced that what is going to be carrying this to success is the emotional things and not the functional things.
Now, you've invented Little Sun. What about Little Moon? What's your next project?
We have worked very hard on a mobile charger, because obviously the thing is, there's so many mobile phones in off-grid places, and charging them has become a whole little business, right? So it's a mobile charger. We're doing it in June. The thing is, once you can charge your own mobile phone, you're fine. That's not so bad, and it's a very cheap one, so it's good. But suddenly you're in a situation where you can start charging somebody else's mobile phone and taking a little bit of money for that. So it's a power station and a sort of money maker, you could say. But that's the next thing. Of course, we're also working on a sort of FM radio, a bigger lamp, and a few other things. So mobile charger and radio, it's sort of communication thing. So we're moving into, like everybody else, into communication.
But you're an artist, so what design will it be? Because that'll be, I mean, there's the concept and then there's the design. So what kind of design are you going to do?
If you look at a lot of the other products which are doing something similar, they are all driven by functionality. It's engineering thing. They're often aid driven or relief work driven and so on. We are going to aim even more on making it, a desirable object, a work of art, something where when you own it, you get very excited because you look at it and you smile. Right? So we're really trying to get out of the kind of stigmatizing language and sort of shape of what an aid object looks like, and we want to do something which is like full of colors, full of power, shows that you're strong, and shows that you also have ideas. So it's like a work of art. It's like about creativity.